How long has it been since you truly felt at ease before sleeping, simply lying down and knowing your brain is on your side? In the video, When the Brain Creates a Sense of Peace, the Science of Calm, we will decode how the mature brain generates a feeling of calm, from slow breathing, safe memories, to small signals that help the nervous system understand that tonight things are all right. Not empty philosophy, but clear, practical, scientific truths for ages 45, 90. So you can see that light sleep is not a battle, but a reward you deserve every night. If this content resonates with you, please subscribe to the Smart Sleep channel and join us in building a private zone of peace for you each night. When night falls, the room gently darkens, the screen is off or has been set aside. Many of us still habitually think, I have to clear out all my thoughts. My mind must be blank before I can sleep. And then, when the thoughts refuse to disappear, we think we've failed. But the truth is, a calm brain is not a brain with no thoughts left. It is a brain that knows how to organize, how to close the ledger, how to say to each fragment of worry, tonight, this is enough. The most beautiful image for you to picture at 45, 60, or 80 is not an empty head, but a quiet desk after closing hours. The files have been put away, the lights have softened, only a few truly necessary things remain neatly in place. Scientifically, this is not just a poetic metaphor. The prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for thoughtful thinking, seeing the bigger picture, making decisions, is like a calm librarian. The amygdala, the brain's alarm center, is like a fire alarm bell, always ready to ring at the slightest signal of danger. During the day, with the flood of news, work, family, health, memories, loneliness, everything stacks up like a pile of papers higher than your head. If at night you simply lie down and hope to not think about anything, you're asking the brain to do something that goes against its natural design. The brain has no delete all button. It only has a range, and that capacity becomes stronger when the prefrontal cortex is calm enough to step forward, place a hand on the amygdala's shoulder and say, thank you. I've received the signal, but now it's time for the curtain to fall. The peace we are seeking doesn't just drop down like flipping a switch. It is the intentional product of very small, very gentle gestures, repeated in an order the brain can recognize. Notice this. There are nights when you still have thoughts, still remember old stories, still think about tomorrow, but everything seems to line up, single file, drifting slowly, less sharp-edged. You are not dragged away by each stream of thought, but watch them quietly pass from a little distance. That is precisely when your prefrontal cortex is working well, leading the narrative instead of letting the amygdala shout in your ear. And conversely, the chaotic nights are when all thoughts rush in at once. Each memory is a fire alarm. Each message, each bill, each test result, each misunderstood sentence is tagged as urgent. You are not unable to sleep because your brain is too strong, but because there's no one inside your brain stepping up to put things back in order. At ages 45, 90, you've been through enough storms to understand. Calm never just naturally falls into place. It is a skill, a gentle discipline, an art of choosing order for what happens inside you. The interesting thing is that modern neuroscience shows us something hopeful. Even when the brain is older, the ability to regulate and reorganize is still there. The prefrontal cortex may lose some speed, but it gains the advantage of experience, of seeing further than a single event. If we give it a chance, it can still play the role of steady coordinator, telling the amygdala, we've survived this kind of thing before, That other matter does not need solving at 11 p.m. Right now the priority is sleep. But for that to happen, we have to send the brain clear signals that this is order time, not chaos time. Those signals do not come from slogans like "stop worrying," but from small actions that follow a logic. When you turn down harsh lights, the brain reads sunset. When you sit quietly for a few minutes, not scrolling more news, the brain reads end of shift. When you don't start a big argument before bed, don't open work email just to finish this one thing, don't watch another fear-stirring news report, you are giving the librarian in your brain enough time to put the files away. Conversely, if you bring the whole battlefield into bed and then demand to feel at peace immediately, that's an unreasonable request for an honest biological system. The brain only responds to the data you feed it. It is not against you. It is simply honest with what you lay out for it. In midlife and older age, there is a silent challenge. We carry many more layers of memory, loss, regret, choices, those who have left, opportunities gone, diagnoses, responsibilities toward children and grandchildren. All those files sit in the mind like a giant archive, and every night, if no one organizes them, that archive bursts open, making the brain think every story is happening at once, all urgent, all needing immediate handling. Calm, in this case, does not mean denying pain or pretending everything is fine. Calm is the ability to file each matter into its proper drawer. What needs dealing with tomorrow? What belongs to a finished past? What is beyond our control? What does not need to be carried into sleep? That is inner order, and that order can absolutely be trained through very modest rituals. 1 minute reviewing the day and naming one thing you did manage, however small. One kind sentence to yourself. Today is enough. One slow, deep breath, recognizing that you are still here, in this room, safer than you think. One decision to close the channels that only scare you for no reason. These seemingly simple gestures are how you switch on the light for your prefrontal cortex, helping it shine just enough to soothe the alarm system. You can picture it as talking to yourself. Well, still worry if needed, but not now. Now is for tidying up, not for opening new files. In a world that constantly demands keep your mind busy, the idea of an orderly brain might sound dull, but it is actually a privilege of those who've lived through half a lifetime. When young, we react on instinct. Let every stimulus pull us. Allow each message, each look, each criticism to overturn our whole night. When older, if we are willing to sit down with ourselves, we begin to see not everything deserves to be brought into the night shift. Not every emotion needs to be processed immediately. Not every worry is a house fire. At that point, peace is no longer a mystical illusion, but a form of wisdom, knowing what is allowed to remain in the mind before sleep. And that wisdom, fortunately, does not require the health of a 20-year-old, does not require you to run 10 miles, does not require a big income. It only needs you, tonight, to try answering one very small yet very serious question with yourself. Tonight, am I feeding order or feeding chaos in my mind? If you find yourself feeding chaos by reading more news past midnight, replaying old sentences to blame yourself, reopening arguments in your imagination, see that not as a fixed personality, but as a brain habit that has been repeated. Habits can change. You cannot command be calm now, but you can start with one concrete thing. Give your brain a closing ritual. Each person will have their own ritual. writing down tomorrow's tasks so they don't have to sit in your head, placing your medications, glasses, and water in a fixed spot so your body feels cared for, listening to a gentle story instead of drowning in endless feeds, softly placing a hand on your chest and reminding yourself, enough. I have done enough for today. These rituals are not toxic positivity and do not ask you to deny reality. On the contrary, they help the brain partition. This belongs to daylight. This belongs to night's rest. Gradually, the prefrontal cortex recognizes the pattern. At this hour, we wrap up. The amygdala also learns it does not need to blare the siren all night. From there, the sense of peace appears not because you're lucky, but because you've honestly reprogrammed the environment inside and around you. At 45-90, you hold one gift many younger people lack: the ability to see life in the long view. You've seen many things you thought you would never get through eventually pass. If you allow it, that experience can become the foundation of inner order, helping you tell tonight's worries. We've lived through worse days than this, and we are still here. Tonight, we choose to rest. The final question, as a gentle invitation before closing your eyes. Tonight, will you let your brain continue as a night shift clerk in a chaotic warehouse? Or will you become the present owner, helping it straighten the shelves, dim the lights, close the door softly and say, "Thank you, the rest can wait until tomorrow"? The answer doesn't need to be spoken out loud. It lies in what you choose to do with the last 10 minutes before sleep. And it is precisely there that the science of calm begins to turn into a very personal, very beautiful story of your own. And then, once we've understood that a calm brain is not an empty head without thoughts, but an ordered space, the next question appears clearly. If peace is a biological decision, when is the moment we truly shift gears for the whole body? And tonight, right here on this familiar bed, are we giving ourselves that chance? Your body, even after walking with you through 4, 5, 6, even 7 decades, still runs on an ancient principle. To survive, it must know how to stay alert. Deep down, it still thinks in the language of forests, wild beasts, winters with scarce food, the autonomic nervous system which runs heart rate, breathing, blood pressure, digestion, sleep. Without your commands, always stands between 2 lanes. One for danger, fight or flight. One for rest, recovery, healing. You cannot completely turn one lane off and keep only the other. But you can tilt the scale. And the beautiful thing is, that tilt does not have to come from huge decisions. It can begin with just 6-8 slow, steady breaths you set aside for yourself before closing your eyes. Imagine a very ordinary evening, maybe in a quiet suburban house, a small apartment in the city, or a coastal town where the night breeze carries a hint of salt. The day's news has passed. Health, finances, politics, family matters, unfinished tasks. There is no tiger lurking outside the door, but in your body, small tension signals are still lit. Heart rate higher than needed, unconscious shallow breathing, shoulders drawn tight, jaw slightly clenched. Your nervous system, honest as a mirror, still believes it is on duty, ready to handle one more thing. Then you lie down in bed and say to yourself, "I hope I sleep well tonight." But that hope doesn't come with any clear signal sent down to the body that says, "Shift over." Now we're in the rest lane. For many years, we've been encouraged to think more positively. Stop worrying, just relax. But the nervous system does not speak in slogans. It speaks in rhythm, in breath, in posture, in how we use our eyes, our ears, our hearts. In the last minutes of the day, you can give yourself a whole lecture on everything will be fine. But if your chest is still tight, your breath still shallow, your eyes still locked on threatening headlines, your body will believe what it feels, not what those words say. That's why sometimes a small, concrete, repeated ritual like 6-8 slow breaths can be more powerful than a grand attempt to think positive. Let's move through this gear shift very slowly together. You don't need to change your whole life in one night. You only need, in the gradually darkening room, to choose to sit or lie still. Place a hand on your chest or lower belly, and try inhaling gently through your nose for a slow count of 4, then exhaling longer for 5 or 6. No straining, no performing, no trying to meditate perfectly. Just letting your body know there is nothing to rush for. Second time, third time, by the 6th breath. What changes may not be the outside world, but the way your nervous system reads that world. Biologically, when you lengthen your exhale, you invite the rest and restore lane to step up. The heart has a chance to slow a bit. Blood pressure softens, muscles loosen. The vagus nerve, the major pathway connecting brain to heart, lungs, digestive system recognizes the pattern. This is the rhythm of a body not under threat. It sends signals back to the brain. We're okay. We can lower our guard. And just like that, with a breath nobody sees, you've gently turned the wheel from the fight lane into the rest lane. No complex philosophy, no expensive tools, no fake positivity, only the acceptance of a simple truth. The body needs to be spoken to in its own language, not only through commands in your head. This is especially important for you, the one who has spent many years living in always ready mode, ready to shoulder family responsibilities, care for children, worry for parents, chase work, face illness, say goodbye to loved ones, adapt to big changes in the world. At 50, 60, 70, the reflex of vigilance has been reinforced into every cell. A phone ring startles you. A test result speeds your heart. The news cycle instantly flips you into alert. That is not your fault. It's proof your nervous system has served you loyally. But precisely for that reason, it needs someone kind enough to tell it. Thank you. Tonight, it's okay to rest a while. The gear shift is not a flashy performance. It's like the small maneuver an experienced driver makes naturally, easing off the gas, shifting into the right gear, so the engine doesn't roar for nothing. In the body, that shift looks simple. You dim the strong lights. You don't bring fresh conflict into bed. You adjust your breath. Maybe take a sip of warm water. Stretch your back slowly. Elevate your feet a little if they're swollen. Listen to a gentle story. These are physical signals. The nervous system reads them immediately, and it believes them. Many older adults feel stuck in the alert lane to the point of thinking it's their unchangeable nature. I've been anxious since I was young. I've slept poorly since I retired. I always have to think for everyone. But if you look closely, you'll see the body is rarely given a genuine chance to shift gears. We often demand it shut off right after harsh news, heated debates, calculations, noisy images. It's like forcing a car going 70 miles an hour to stop instantly without slowing. The nervous system is not resisting you, it just needs a stretch of transition road. 6 to 8 slow breaths are that stretch. A small pre-sleep ritual is that deceleration lane. Without them, daytime tension flows straight into the night. It's quite remarkable when you realize this gear shift is not just a sleep trick, but a lesson in how you treat yourself. Your whole life, You've likely been kind to others, but strict with your own body, demanding it push more, stay up longer, worry more, while rarely giving it clear signals that now you are allowed to be safe. When you consciously enter the rest lane, you're sending a deeper message. I deserve not to be on guard all the time. That is a quiet second kind of maturity, full of dignity. Picture tonight, you try a new script for yourself. Instead of scrolling 10 more minutes through endless feeds, you turn off the screen a bit earlier. The room is quieter. The light is softer. You place a hand on your belly. Close your eyes. Count silently. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Then 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhale. You don't argue with your thoughts. You don't force images away. You just observe your own breath. On the third breath, you may still hear the day echoing. On the fifth, your shoulders start to drop. On the eighth, you may notice your heart a little calmer. No dramatic miracle, just subtle adjustments, like someone turning down background noise, and that is already a victory. Science calls this increased activation of the rest and digest system, but for you, it may be easier to remember it as an invitation. Let yourself not be the guard of everything. When the rest system is engaged, your body can repair small damage in blood vessels, clear waste in the brain, balance blood sugar, support immunity, which means each time you allow this gear shift, you're not only changing your emotional state, you're adding quality time to the years ahead. In that light, thinking positive alone becomes weak if it stays as empty words. But if you pair it with concrete biological rituals, breath, posture, light, space, then each gentle thought you send yourself has somewhere to land. The sentence "today was enough" suddenly has real weight, because your body feels it through its loosening muscles. The sentence "I am safe in this moment" stops being a slogan and becomes an accurate description. In the end, this secret shift from vigilance to rest is also a measure of a subtle form of maturity. We learn not to judge ourselves for being tired, not to scold ourselves for worrying, but also not to let those worried rhythms drive our life car forever in alarm lane. We begin to understand that strength is not in being tense all the time, but in knowing when to slow down so we can keep going. And each night, when you place your hand on your chest and take one more slow breath, you are casting a vote. You are voting for the kind of brain, the kind of heart, the kind of person you want to be in the years to come. Not someone immune to anxiety, but someone who knows how to shift gears at the right time. Before you close your eyes tonight, you might gently ask yourself, all day today, how many chances did I give my body to flip the switch into rest? If the answer is almost none, then don't rush to blame your sleep. See this as the first night. You try something different, with just 6-8 clear, kind breaths. The rest, let your body, the most faithful companion you've ever had, show you that it still remembers very well the way back to the lane of peace. And when your breath has slowed, and your body begins to understand that tonight it doesn't need to stand guard anymore, we step through another very quiet doorway that many people unintentionally ignore. If there were a calming medicine you didn't have to buy or swallow, only remember, which memory in your life would it be? Neuroscience has a gentle truth for people like you who have lived through many decades. The brain does not only store scars and worries, it also keeps, very clearly, moments of safety, though you may rarely name them. The feeling of someone's hand holding yours tightly in a hospital years ago. The smell of an old kitchen with the sound of a spoon tapping the pot. The sound of your parents' shoes on the porch signaling today everything is normal. The smell of a clean pillow in the small room where you first felt, "This is my place." Those moments, to the brain, are not romantic nostalgia. They are biological data of safety. Each time you recall them in the right way, the brain is not just watching an old movie, it is reactivating the corresponding sense of safety, reducing activity in the amygdala, the alarm bell, and helping the body step more lightly into sleep. The interesting thing is that most of us, especially in midlife and older age, use memory in the opposite direction. Before bed, we replay hurtful words, misunderstandings, test results, worst-case scenarios for our children and grandchildren. We're used to using our memory system as a warehouse of bad news, forgetting that in that same warehouse, safety files are stored quietly, waiting to be opened. No one taught us to use memory as an official tranquilizer, while the brain is actually built to respond sincerely to intentionally recalled safe images. Imagine one night you lie down the same bed, the same room, worries still circling somewhere. Instead of letting your mind automatically drag you through each painful story, you gently choose, as if choosing one specific reel, the time you were 10, standing on the front porch in summer, someone handing you a cold drink and saying, "Here, drink this." Not a grand event, just a moment when your body understood. I am seen. I am not abandoned. You allow yourself to linger a bit longer in that frame. The cool glass in your hand, the smell of old wood, the late afternoon light, the distant sound of traffic, your slow heartbeat because nothing was urgent. When you recreate those sensory details on an emotional level, your brain doesn't distinguish too sharply between now and then. It starts to release some of the same sense of safety, as if reminded, this existed, and something of it still exists. Biologically, safe emotional memories are stored through networks between the hippocampus, which handles context, space, sequence, and the amygdala, which tags emotion. When a felt safe experience is deeply imprinted, the brain learns this pattern of signals equals no danger. When you deliberately recall it, especially once your body has begun to slow with the breath, you're sending a dual message. From body upward and from memory downward, both say to the nervous system, nothing is burning. Tonight we can set down the hard hat. What matters is how you remember, not digging into the memory to compare, criticize, regret, if only I could go back, but touching it, like opening a small box just to borrow that intact feeling of safety. No arguing needed. Many people fear memory because it contains hurt. That is absolutely true. At 60, 70, 80, you carry losses, farewells, hospital rooms, midnight calls. The brain, wired for survival, tends to highlight the negative to learn lessons, but this does not mean good memories vanish. They are simply covered. The problem is not that the brain only stores pain, but that we were never taught to choose the playback channel. Before sleep, if there is no conscious choice, the default channel is often worry, but if you deliberately press another button, the pattern can change. Notice how certain smells, sounds, or small images during the day can soothe you instantly. The smell of fresh bread, children laughing outside, an old song on the radio, afternoon sunlight on a wooden table. Those are moments when a safe memory gets triggered. The body reacts faster than thought. Shoulders soften, your face eases, your mind pauses its arguments. Those reactions are proof the safe memory library is still active. So what if, tonight, instead of waiting for a random cue, you invite one of those memories in on purpose? You might try a very simple, very private ritual. After you've taken a few slow breaths as before, ask yourself a small question. Among all the years I've lived, in which moment did my body feel most clearly that I was safe, cared for, belonged? And don't rush to pick something grand. It doesn't have to be graduations, weddings, perfect photos. Choose something very ordinary. Someone tucking a blanket over you when you fell asleep on the sofa. A loved one bringing you a bowl of hot soup when you were sick. A winter morning, fog on the window, you smelling coffee, and hearing the voice of someone you love in the kitchen. The day you drove your child to school, clear sky, red light. They asked some silly question that made you laugh. These are what psychologists call micro moments of safety. Tiny instants of feeling safe and connected. They don't impress society, but to the brain, they are proof this world is not only threat. When you allow yourself to linger in those frames for a few dozen seconds, the amygdala receives a different packet of data. Not alarm, but reminders. We have not always been alone. We have made it through many storms. We did have anchors, sometimes a person, a room, or simply a stronger self than we gave ourselves credit for. For someone 45-90, this is all the more precious, because you have more material than the young to build a biological safe vault. The issue is not lack, but underuse. Modern science on trauma, anxiety, and insomnia increasingly emphasizes the role of safe anchors in memory. The technique is not to erase wounds, but to let the nervous system experience safety long enough and clearly enough that bad memories do not occupy the entire screen. This is not only for the therapy room. You can practice a lighter version of it every night as a gift to yourself. Before handing your night over to worry, let one safe memory step out first. Of course, some will say, but those people are gone, or that house is gone, or now everything is different. True, and that is exactly why safe memory is not about running from reality or clinging desperately to the past. It is about acknowledging that alongside the hard chapters, your life also had gentle ones, and those gentle chapters helped shape who you are now. When you let yourself remember with gratitude instead of with if only, memory becomes a support, not an anchor dragging you under. Try shifting the inner narrative. Instead of whispering, "Now it's just me," you might try, "I have been loved like this before, and that imprint still lives in me." Instead of thinking, "Those days are gone," think, "Those days have flowed into me, so I can carry some of that gentleness forward to today." That small shift in how you interpret memory can make a big difference in how your nervous system responds. The amygdala receives fewer deprivation signals and more I have known safety signals. And then sleep feels less like falling into a dark, lonely void, and more like returning to a familiar room inside yourself. From the perspective of personal growth, using safe memories in this way is an act of responsibility toward yourself. For decades, you have carried responsibility for so many other people. Now, the small but important task is taking responsibility for how you treat your own brain. Not letting it be only a storage room of fears, but allowing it to also be a place that preserves old light. Safe memories help remind you that you are not only the result of failures, but also the result of countless moments when you got back up, when you loved, when you survived. Before sleep, instead of asking, "What if something bad happens tomorrow?" you can add a parallel question. If I've gotten through this many things over all these years, doesn't that mean there is something strong and kind within me that has carried me this far? This question does not erase risks, but it places you back in the position of someone with an inner history of strength, not a pure victim of circumstance. When you see yourself that way, Safe memories become living evidence of endurance, of your capacity to love, of your ability to keep learning how to be calm amid change. And so, that reserve store not only helps you sleep better for one night, it becomes the foundation for a gentle kind of maturity in the years ahead, using the night less as a time to punish yourself, and a bit more as a time to support yourself, spending less of it torturing yourself with what might go wrong, and a bit more reminding yourself of what has been right, has been beautiful. Before we close tonight's conversation, I'd like to gently invite you to try something very personal. As you lie down, after a few slow breaths, choose exactly one scene from your life which, when you think of it, lets your body loosen even just a little. Someone's eyes looking at you with trust, the sound of a door opening as a loved one returns home safely, the feeling of standing in your own kitchen and knowing this is my home, or simply the image of your own younger hands, strong and steady, supporting someone else. Let that frame stay a moment longer than usual, without commentary, without comparison. Just see, just feel. Then entrust your body to sleep in that feeling. And the question to carry with you, not as a test, but as a gentle suggestion, is this: if from now on, each night you deliberately choose one safe clip to replay, instead of letting your mind pick randomly, then after a month, a year, how will the emotional map in your brain have changed? And what kind of person will you have become when you know how to use the past not to hurt yourself, but to remind yourself that you have been, are, and remain worthy of peace? And when you've learned to invite your breath to slow and to choose a safe memory to lean on, there is still a quiet question lying in the dark of the room. If the brain hates the feeling of helplessness even more than bad news, then tonight, in these last 15 minutes before sleep, are you giving yourself any small victory, or just letting yourself drift on old habits? Your body and brain, after so many decades of living, have learned one thing very clearly: there are things you cannot control. Test results, the weather, other people's attitudes, economic changes, your children's decisions, your loved one's health. The older you get, the longer the list of "I don't have a handle on this" becomes. And if you're not careful, it spills even into areas that should remain small and private. Your sleep schedule, how you treat your own body, what you allow into your mind before you close your eyes. The brain does not fear harsh truths as much as it fears having to live in a sense of complete powerlessness. It is that state "everything is beyond me" that makes the amygdala light up, nudges the heart rate up, shortens the breath. Meanwhile, psychology and neuroscience both show this. As long as a person feels they still control even a few small things, their physiological stress level is different. You don't need to control your whole life. You just need one small corner. Picture a very ordinary evening somewhere in this country. Maybe you're in a quiet suburb, in an old wooden house with carpeted hallways. Maybe you're in a high-rise apartment, city lights washing through the curtains. Maybe you're in a nursing home, where medication times and meals are printed out clearly. You dim the lights, reach for the remote, and stand before a very small choice. Watch one more news segment, one more episode, or stop here. One part of you says, a bit more is fine. It's not like I control much else. Another part, very quiet but patient, whispers, if I choose to turn off the TV on time, I am sending my brain a message. At the very least, I am taking care to make tomorrow a little better for myself. That choice seems trivial, but to the nervous system, it is a very clear signal. It says, I still hold the wheel in what belongs to me. When you prepare a glass of water at your bedside so you won't have to stumble around at night. When you lay out tomorrow's pills in an easy-to-see, correct order instead of scrambling in the morning. When you spend 2 extra minutes checking that the floor on the way to the bathroom is clear, the night light is on, the heater is safe. All those insignificant actions, in the brain's language, say, the environment is organized. I am not completely at the mercy of things. Safety is not only having others care for you, it is also doing your part. Scientifically, this micro sense of control is called agency, the feeling that you can produce a small, meaningful change in your own circumstances. Many studies show that when older adults are allowed, or allow themselves, to make choices in small matters, choosing their sleep time, arranging their own corner, deciding one detail in their routine, their mental health and sleep quality improve significantly. When the brain believes I can do something, it reduces the signals of helplessness, stops exaggerating threat, and the autonomic nervous system leans less toward constant alert. You can recall periods when you felt most exhausted, often not only because there was too much to do, but because of the flood of things outside your reach. At those times, a ringing phone felt like a threat. An envelope in the mail felt like fear. In that flood, if someone had shown you, you don't have to control everything. Just start with something small. Tonight, you choose to turn off the TV 15 minutes earlier, drink enough water, set out tomorrow's clothes. You might have felt a little different. Not stronger in muscle, but steadier in the feeling. I am not completely swept away. At 45-90, a big fatigue does not only come from a slower body, but from having been the responsible one for so long. Maybe you are the financial pillar, the caregiver, the family connector. Then at some point, roles shift, others decide more. Doctors lay out treatment plans. Children arrange schedules, policies, insurance, and rules stack up. It's easy to slide into, now I just wait, just comply. In that frame of mind, each piece of bad news presses on an already sore spot. But even in a context where you cannot decide the big things alone, you still have one territory no one can take. The small habits before sleep, how you speak to your body, how you treat each night. Imagine that tonight, instead of letting habit drag you, you treat the last 20 minutes as a small ritual of an adult caring for themselves. You look around and rearrange 2 or 3 things, not to meet someone else's standard of tidy, but so that tomorrow you won't trip or have to search. You pour yourself a warm cup of water, not too full, and set it by the bed. You open your pill organizer, check tomorrow's row, so you won't start your day squinting and anxious. You silence your phone notifications, so only truly necessary calls can wake you. Each act is a soft comma. I still have a say in my own life. These micro wins are so quiet, no one will applaud. But your brain knows. The amygdala, your alarm center, registers that the environment has been prepared, that the risk of tripping, wrong pills, dehydration, meaningless awakenings has dropped. The prefrontal cortex, judging the situation, notes, this person has not given up. This person is cooperating with me. The two start to work together instead of arguing. From there, your nervous system has fewer reasons to keep you awake on guard duty. Sadly, many people instead use those last 20 minutes to reinforce their sense of losing control, watching until they're drained, snacking on what they know will hurt their sleep, scrolling through disturbing news, replaying every infuriating thing they can't change. Those are the moments we unintentionally send the brain the message, I can't even manage myself. The brain does not judge you. but it believes you. And when it believes that, it raises the alert. If the owner isn't watching, I have to. Sleeplessness, nightmares, jolting awake at night are often the cost of a nervous system forced into unpaid night shifts. The good news is, you don't need to change who you are to change this outcome. You just need to give yourself small proofs that you can still choose. Choose to turn devices off on time. Choose not to read that comment thread you know will upset you. Choose to make a warm call in the afternoon instead of carrying resentment into the night. Choose to prepare what you'll need tomorrow so the day doesn't start in chaos. Each choice is you saying to your brain, we are not helpless. We are taking care of ourselves. You might think, but the big problems are still there. What can these tiny habits do? It's true. Micro decisions don't cure disease, reverse age, or solve all financial stress. But on a biological level, they change how the nervous system defines reality. When you create small order, the brain stops lumping everything into one fog of threat. It can distinguish. There are issues unresolved, but there are also things I am handling. That distinction is the key to easing anxiety. When everything carries the same lost label, people want to give up. When there are a few small wins, people have energy to go on, to think more clearly, to receive even bad news with a clearer head. From a self-development viewpoint, this is a subtle yet profound lesson for mid and later life. In youth, you might have been taught that your worth is tied to big things: career, assets, achievements, roles. At some point, those change shape, shrink, or move away. If you're not careful, you might mistakenly believe you no longer do anything. In reality, the new depth of maturity lies in seeing the dignity in small conscious acts, choosing to treat your body kindly with a warm glass of water, choosing to respect your sleep by stopping at the right time, choosing to reduce fall risk by turning on a nightlight, choosing not to pour more bad news into your mind at 11 p.m. These things don't make headlines, but they say a lot about how you see yourself. As someone worth protecting, not just someone destined to endure. Before you close your eyes tonight, you might play a small game with yourself. Slowly list in your mind 3 small things you consciously chose today. It might be, today I ate a proper meal even though no one reminded me. Today I declined an invitation I knew would exhaust me. Today I turned the TV off 10 minutes earlier. If you think there's nothing, start right now. Adjust one small thing before sleeping. Then tomorrow, when you recall, you already have at least one proof that you didn't completely drift. And if you want to carry this story with you longer, keep one very gentle question as a nightly companion. There are things I cannot control, that's true. But among the things I can, did I hold the wheel tonight, or just drift? The question is not for self-accusation, but a soft reminder, because each time you choose to hold the wheel, even in something tiny, you are repeating an important message. I remain an active companion to my own life, even in the moment I lay my head down. And who knows, after many nights like that, you may recognize something very quiet yet solid: calm. Peace are not just gifts from above or strokes of luck, but the result of hundreds of small, kind decisions toward yourself. Once you understand that, each night is no longer just the end of a tiring day, but a quiet chance to retrain the art of steering your life in the gentlest way. And then, after those small decisions that help us feel we're still at the wheel, the next question appears clearly. If just one posture, one breath, one facial expression can send a signal to the brain, is your body telling a story of peace or a story of alarm? And tonight, which voice will it choose to whisper to itself? There is a quiet strand running from your neck down your chest, looping past the heart, sliding along the lungs, wrapping the stomach, touching the intestines, a long, soft, silent pathway with a strange power over your mood. That is the vagus nerve. If the brain is the commander and the body is the city, then the vagus is the two-way hotline. The interesting part is that most of the signals don't go from brain down, but from below up. From heartbeat, breath, facial muscles, neck, chest, organs, reporting back. And the report is very simple: safe zone or danger zone. On nights when you sleep poorly, startle easily, or fall into endless loops of worry, it's often not just about thoughts, but because the vagus is sending up signals that the body does not yet believe it's safe. You don't need to remember the complicated name, just one principle. Whenever you let your shoulders drop a bit, unclench your jaw, let your lips rest lightly together with the faintest hint of a smile. Breathe deeply into your belly instead of lifting your shoulders. You are telling the vagus, there are no tigers here. We are indoors. We are protected. And the vagus, faithful messenger, carries that feeling up to the brain. From there, the brain adjusts heart rate, blood pressure, stress hormones. It's a shortcut from body to mind without needing to argue with your thoughts. At 50, 60, 70, 80, you may feel your body has betrayed you. Knees ache more, back stiffens more, sleep thins. The heart sounds louder on the stairs, but in another sense, the body is still an ally if you speak its language. The vagus nerve, with its calming power, is like a volume dial for your nervous system. When you curl in, hunch your shoulders, furrow your brow, hold your breath, stare into a screen close up, the vagus receives prepare tense messages. Even in a safe room, your nervous system maintains a quiet state of alert, enough to make sleep fragile. Now change one detail. You lean back into the chair or headboard. Let your spine be upright but not rigid. Let your shoulders drop as if setting down a heavy bag. Place a hand on your belly. Feel the breath go down. Exhale one beat longer. You don't have to force positive thoughts. Just trust that the body understands. The vagus receives a softer pattern to it. That is the difference between in the trenches and on the porch at dusk. In later adulthood, your face and posture carry the story of a lifetime. Some people's brows are permanently tight, shoulders always slightly raised, as if always waiting for bad news. Others, though they've faced many hardships, have a small smile at the eyes, corners, loose shoulders, slow but unhurried steps. Behind those expressions is not only personality, but how the vagus and nervous system have been used for years. The good news, whatever the old story, you can add new chapters starting tonight. Before sleep, you can try a simple vagus ritual. Sit on the edge of the bed or lean against your pillow, feet touching the floor or relaxed. Inhale through your nose for a slow count of 4, letting your belly rise gently, then exhale through nose or mouth for a count of 6. As you exhale, imagine dropping some weight from your shoulders, your brow, your jaw. Repeat 6 times, then place a warm hand at the center of your chest, over your sternum. No pressing, just resting. Let your mouth curve up the slightest bit, not to fake happiness, but as a sign that no one here is issuing orders or launching a new campaign. This moment belongs to rest. To others, it's a tiny gesture. To the vagus, it's a code. You might ask, is that really enough? Not enough to solve everything. True, but enough to shift the emotional baseline of those few minutes before sleep. And those minutes are your entryway into the night. If that entry smells of smoke, sounds like sirens, with clenched shoulders and tight eyes, your night will struggle to be peaceful. If that doorway opens with deep breaths, released shoulders, warm hands, a gentle face, the vagus will report that the shift can wind down. Sometimes that alone marks the difference between tossing and turning and letting yourself sink like a leaf that has finally found its place to rest. What few tell older adults is this: your posture is not only about looks or standing straight for your back. It is a language of neural safety. When you hunch from fatigue, stare downward out of habit, shield your chest as if defending, the nervous system reads defense. When you softly open your shoulders a bit, give your lungs a little more room, keep your neck easy, let your gaze follow the horizon instead of always dropping. That is the posture of someone in a less threatening place. No one is asking you to pose, just adjust enough for the vagus to hear. I am no longer hiding in a bunker. Another small detail many overlook is the face. The amygdala and emotional circuits read facial signals, yours and others, very quickly. If your face is locked, lips pressed, brows furrowed, though you don't intend it, your body registers tense situation. Before sleeping, if you spend a few seconds relaxing your forehead, letting your jaw loosen, a gentle yawn, or resting your tongue behind your lower front teeth, and lifting the corners of your mouth by even a millimeter, you're retuning the frequency. This smile is not for anyone else to see. It's for your vagus and your heart. We made it through one more day. That is already a lot. For those 45, 90, you may be tired of hearing go to the gym, meditate deeply, reinvent your life. The story of the vagus nerve does not ask you to become someone else. It only suggests, use the body you have now, with its current abilities, to send kinder signals. You don't need to run 10 kilometers to activate the vagus. A soft lullaby, a line of prayer, a long exhale, a hand smoothing your own arm can be enough. At this age, when your body's reserves deserve respect, these small but deep techniques are all the more precious. From a self-development lens, learning to speak to the vagus is learning a new kind of responsibility. Responsibility for your own gentleness. When young, we mistake strength for strain, tension, endurance. Later, we begin to see another kind of strength, knowing how to soften, how to release at the right time, how to send safety signals to ourselves instead of waiting for the world to do it. Growth is no longer climbing more steps, but inhabiting the ones we have more fully, more warmly. Before you drift into sleep tonight, if you'd like to try, set all theory aside and do one tiny thing. Lie down, adjust your pillow so your neck isn't bent. Inhale slowly, let your belly lift your hand a little. Exhale longer, drop your shoulders. Let your lips curve slightly, as if you're remembering one gentle detail from your life. Your grandchild's laughter, an old friend's face, sunlight on the porch years ago. Place your hand on your chest and whisper silently, not aloud. Here, in this moment, I am safe. Not a promise about the future, not denial of hardship. Just acknowledgement of this one true moment. The vagus will hear. The brain will hear. Both will record it. And the question to take with you, as an invitation rather than homework. In the years ahead, do you want your body to keep telling your brain the old story of tension, or start learning a new narrative, slower, softer, more trusting in your own ability to create a safe zone from within? Each night, With just a few seconds of loose shoulders, one deep belly breath, one tiny smile, you are choosing your answer. Quietly, without show, but truly. And that quiet truth is the ground of the calm you deserve. And once your body has begun to understand the vagus language, shoulders less clenched, breath deeper, face softer, another question is worth whispering together. If a single touch, a kind word can change the chemistry of your brain, have you made use of that gentle medicine tonight? For years, people have spoken of hormones as something mysterious and distant, only appearing in lab reports or supplement ads. In reality, there are three very familiar companions that have walked with you for decades, quietly helping decide whether you sleep easily or fitfully tonight. Oxytocin, serotonin, and melatonin. Not as loud as adrenaline, not as dramatic as panic surges. They work slowly, gently. But that gentleness is exactly the foundation of peace. And the best part is, you can support them through things that seem utterly ordinary. Let's start with oxytocin. It's often called the bonding hormone or hug hormone. Whenever you hug someone you trust, hold a hand, stroke a grandchild's hair, gently rub your partner's back, even pet an animal, your brain releases a small amount of oxytocin. No fireworks, no soundtrack, just a subtle biological change. Heart rate softens, suspicion decreases. The hard line of me versus the world relaxes. To the nervous system, those moments carry a primitive message. The tribe is here. We are not alone in the wild. At 45, 90, life may have shrunk your social circle. Children are busy. Friends move away. Loved ones pass on. Your body makes going out harder. All the more reason your brain's need for oxytocin grows even as those hugs and handholds dwindle. Sometimes we even forget that a simple goodnight hand squeeze, a light touch on the shoulder, a hug that lasts longer than 2 seconds is not a luxury, but a way to adjust your inner chemistry before reaching for a new sleeping pill. Tonight, you might ask yourself a small but serious question. Have I given my body any tender moment of connection today? If you live alone, that doesn't mean this door is closed. Oxytocin is not limited to romantic love. It appears in a short phone call with an old friend, in the way you look at a family photo with gratitude, in a few minutes spent stroking your dog or cat, in sending a warm message to someone, in a sincere prayer that connects you with something larger than yourself. The brain doesn't require a crowd. It only needs proof that you are still touching some kind of bond with people, with life, with what you believe in. Next is serotonin, the keeper of your emotional baseline. Serotonin is like the steady, gentle lighting of a room, not a lightning bolt. When serotonin is sufficient, even if today wasn't perfect, you still feel you have a place, a tolerance, that you are not in free fall. Stable serotonin helps your brain be less swept up by extreme thoughts like everything is awful, I am nothing. The future is only dark, and what's notable is, your body builds and regulates serotonin not only through medication, but also through steady routines, movement within your ability, daylight, nourishing food, a sense of meaning, and moments of gratitude. You don't need to turn yourself into a professional runner to support serotonin. Walking a few slow laps around your block, standing on the porch to let your skin feel the morning light, eating a proper meal instead of leaving yourself hungry, drinking enough water, doing one small, useful thing in the day, folding a blanket, watering a plant, calling to check in on someone, all send a message to the brain. I am still participating in this life. That is the ground on which serotonin can do its work. And in the evening, when serotonin hasn't dropped too low, your trains of thought are less likely to plunge into an abyss. Sleep arrives not as a desperate escape, but as a gentle transition between two safe states. And then there is melatonin, the conductor of gentle darkness. Melatonin is secreted as the light softens, especially when there is no longer blue light from screens shining directly into your eyes. It is not a sleep drug that knocks you out, but a polite signal to the body. It's night now, let's slow down. If oxytocin and serotonin tell the brain the tribe is safe, the mood is stable enough. Melatonin needs the environment. Less light, less noise, less stimulation. Many people, after long periods of insomnia, rush to melatonin pills as their first solution. With correct guidance, that can be a helpful support. But the gentle, non-judgmental question we can ask ourselves first is, have we given the body a chance to produce melatonin naturally? Or are we flooding our eyes with strong light until the last minute, keeping the TV and phone at full brightness, holding the brain in daytime mode, and then suddenly switching off the lights and demanding the body sleep? Melatonin does not like being yanked by the hair into a room. It prefers a proper sunset. Here, these gentle chemicals come together into a shared story. The feeling of peace is not just a matter of willpower, but the result of a series of tiny biological signals. A hug, a thank you, a few minutes watching the sunset, a warm cup of water, a short walk, less blue light before bed. Each detail is like a brushstroke on the safe tribe painting that the brain is quietly creating. When that picture becomes clearer, the nervous system feels less like it is alone on an open plain. Sleep is not a collapse, but a step into a place where someone stands watch for you. Imagine a very simple, ideal evening. You turn off the TV earlier than usual, leaving a bit of quiet space unfilled. You pick up your phone, not to scroll the news, but to send a line, thinking of you tonight to an old friend, or to call a relative for 2 minutes just to ask, how was your day? When the call ends, a small warmth lingers in your chest. Oxytocin rises slightly. Serotonin is reminded that you still belong to a network. You enter your bedroom in soft light, sip a few mouthfuls of warm water, adjust your pillow, release your shoulders, breathe deeply. No complicated ritual. You simply do not betray your body with opposite signals. In that space, melatonin has a chance to speak. Night can step into its proper role. If you live alone, you can still build these moments. Perhaps by hugging the neighbor's dog for a few minutes outside, meeting your opposite door neighbor's eyes with a greeting, thanking the nurse, the delivery person, the supermarket clerk with slow sincerity. When you say thank you gently, not mechanically, you are not just being polite, you are affirming a thread of connection. The body hears it, the brain hears it, the gentle chemicals hear it too. From a self-development perspective, understanding these 3 biological friends helps us turn something seemingly abstract into daily practice. Instead of treating calm as a fixed personality, I'm just an anxious type. I just sleep badly. I'm just pessimistic. You can see yourself as the gardener of your own nervous system. Today, did I water oxytocin with anything? Or did I leave it dry with isolation? Today, did I give serotonin a steady base of light, movement, and usefulness? Or did I leave it to live in chaotic hours? Tonight, did I turn down the light so melatonin can work? Or did I force it to try to sing in a noisy conference hall? No one does it perfectly. You don't need to. The important shift is from unconscious to conscious. You don't have to memorize hormone names to tell yourself this story. You only need to remember a simple version. Before I add another pill, I'll check whether I've given my body its natural signals. A touch, a kind word, a bit of daylight, a real darkness. If the answer is not much yet, that's not a verdict. It's an invitation. Tomorrow, try a little differently. And perhaps the deeper lesson lies here. For many years, we've been used to thinking that gentle things are weak, soft gestures are optional. Thank you, hugs, warm looks are mere social etiquette. Neuroscience quietly says the opposite. It is exactly those things that keep the nervous system standing steady. Oxytocin, serotonin, melatonin cannot argue for themselves in grand speeches, but they leave marks in your heartbeat, your sleep, in how you face bad news tomorrow. When we respect them, we don't just sleep better, we choose a different way of living, treating gentleness as a biological strategy, not a luxury. Before you close your eyes tonight, you might ask yourself one tiny question, just as you've asked about breath, about memory, about the sense of control. Throughout this entire day, how many safe tribe signals did I send my brain? One hug, one look, one sincere thank you, one short call for no big reason, just to be present. One moment standing on the porch, letting the night wrap around you softly. If that number is small, don't be sad. Choose one more thing right now, even if it's just placing your hand on your chest and whispering, "Thank you for bringing me to this night." Just like that, those gentle chemicals already have one more reason to stay by your side. And who knows, on the nights to come, you may discover something that feels like a secret but is, in fact, very ordinary. What helps you sleep deeply is not only in a blister pack, but also in how you touch, how you speak, how you give thanks, how you allow yourself to belong. And that is a gift which, at any age, you still have the power to give yourself. And when those gentle chemicals have arrived, when a hug, a thank you, a warm call have reassured the brain that you still belong somewhere, there is another question, very concrete and often ignored. If your brain is quietly reading everything around it as a security map, what is your bedroom tonight whispering to it? Safe or careful? Lots to watch. For someone who has lived 45, 60, or 85 years, the eyes and the brain are no longer as careless as in your 20s. On the contrary, they are more sensitive to disorder, to fall risks, to strange sounds, to excess light. That is not being picky, but accumulated survival wisdom. The more loss you've seen, the more the brain focuses on protection. Every object out of place, every cable stretched across a walkway, every screen left on when it ought to be dark, becomes a little dot on the nervous system's internal map. Not settled, not done, cannot let go yet. You can tell yourself 100 times to relax. But if your surroundings look more like a cluttered storage room than a nest, your brain will believe what it sees, not what you say. Try picturing this scene, which may be very familiar. A bedroom with a TV facing the bed, a tangle of cords behind the cabinet, some boxes, plastic bags, papers piled on a chair to deal with tomorrow, coats hanging on the door, a phone charging by the pillow, its screen lighting up constantly. The overhead light stays on late until your eyes are drooping, then is snapped off at once. In the seconds before sleep, your brain has been shown a map full of warning points. Risk of tripping, risk of suddenly getting up to check something, risk of calls at any time, reminders of unfinished tasks. The amygdala doesn't know it's just a charging cable or an unpaid bill. It only reads, mess, unfinished, unsecured. And so, even lying down, part of you must stay awake to keep watch, making sleep shallow, jumpy, and tiring. Small order in the bedroom is not about stylish decor or chasing some perfect home image from a magazine. After 50, it's a very concrete biological matter. Each neat, clear, predictable detail is a letter to your nervous system. Tonight, there is less to worry about. You can rest. When the path from bed to bathroom is free of obstacles, your brain doesn't have to reserve energy to calculate. If I get up at 2 a.m., will I fall? When you know exactly where the bedside lamp is, the switch is, the pillbox is, the water bottle is, your nervous system doesn't have to run constant simulations. All those tiny things free up bandwidth so the brain can do other nighttime tasks. Sorting memories, repairing cells, breathing deeply, truly sleeping. Imagine walking into a quiet hotel room, clean bed, warm yellow lamp, no dangling cords. Even in a strange place, many people sleep better simply because the space tells the brain things are arranged. That shows how quickly and strongly the brain reads environment. So why shouldn't the room you live in for years be treated as a true resting space, instead of a dumping ground for everything unresolved? For younger folks, chaos can still be dealt with tomorrow. For older adults, each bit of order means one less trigger for vigilance. Scientifically, older brains tend to process information a bit more slowly, but are more sensitive to noise and clutter. Visual mess, harsh light, loud sounds increase cognitive load. When that load is high, the nervous system struggles to shift into rest mode. It's like trying to sleep in a room where machines keep humming, indicator lights keep blinking. The door is still ajar. When you reduce the number of distracting objects in view, dim harsh lights, and cut unnecessary noise, you are lowering the load, allowing the brain to believe there is no sudden situation to solve. You don't need to turn your bedroom into a sterile zone. Just a few very gentle principles. For example, move daytime things, papers, bags, random items out of the bed area. Don't stack bills where your eyes land as soon as you lie down. Don't line up cardboard boxes, suitcases, or chairs as obstacles along your path. If possible, keep a small, warm, low light that you can turn on when you need to move at night, instead of flipping on a harsh ceiling light that tricks the brain into thinking it's morning. Group outlets and chargers to one side, not across pathways. Lay out sturdy, easy to slip on slippers. These sound like household tips, but to your nervous system, they're a security plan. Sound 2. At 70 or 80, what wakes you may not be nightmares, but some small noise that the brain amplifies because it can't identify it. If outside is too loud, or if the TV runs all night in your room, the brain never gets a clear boundary between it's time to rest and we're still on duty. A soft, steady background sound, a fan, an air purifier, or a very gentle, familiar piece of music can be an audio blanket that keeps the brain from jumping at every tiny noise. In contrast, a TV left talking all night, with constantly changing content, laughter, arguments, commercials, is a stream of information that keeps the nervous system from ever fully leaving daytime. Letting the TV babble until you pass out is like letting a stranger stand in your room, talking and pounding the table. Your brain has to pay attention, no matter how much you tell it to ignore. And light. Melatonin does not like cold white light from screens or fluorescent bulbs shining straight into your eyes late at night. Your brain, after all these decades, still relies on one ancient cue. Darkening sky means rest. If your bedroom is still bathed in bright, bluish, direct light, your pineal gland will be slow to release melatonin, but simply switching to warm, lower, indirect light, a small lamp away from your eyes, helps the brain recognize this is evening. That's why peaceful bedrooms tend to have soft, warm lighting instead of harsh white glare. Not for aesthetic, but to tell the body, the day is done. You may think, at my age, tidying up is exhausting. Remember, we're talking about small order, not a grand cleansing campaign. Just ask, within my field of vision, when I lie down, how many things remind me of unfinished tasks, risks, or clutter, perhaps each night, before getting into bed. You spend 1 minute putting one thing off the floor, folding one piece of clothing, moving a pile of papers to another room, straightening one cable. That 1 minute, repeated, not only makes the room tidier, it trains the brain. We end the day on purpose. That sense of agency, as we mentioned earlier, is a crucial antidote to helplessness. For people in the U, in this age range, many have moved homes, downsized, lived in apartments, care facilities, quiet suburbs. Wherever you are, the bedroom is still the last territory you can negotiate, even if the furnishings are simple. Even if things are not perfect, you still have the right to choose where the chair goes, where the lamp stands, to remove items that stab your heart with, "I need to deal with that," every time you see them. The bedroom should be the place with the fewest nagging reminders and the most reassurances. Less must do, more allowed to rest. On a deeper self-development level, small order in your bedroom reflects inner order. It's not for show, it is how you answer the question, do I see myself as someone worthy of care, or as a temporary guest in my own home? When you clear yourself a safe path, set a warm light, place water within reach, move distracting clutter out of your bedtime view, you are sending a more important message than any slogan. I no longer treat myself as someone who just has to endure. I treat myself as someone deserving of a real place to rest. That is a quiet kind of self-respect. And then, as in all these reflections, the final question returns to choice, not blame. Tonight, before turning out the light, you might simply stand at the doorway and look at your room through your nervous system's eyes. If I were the brain, would I see a battlefield, a processing warehouse, or a nest ordered enough to allow sleep? If the answer leans toward the first two, don't rush to feel bad. Just choose one tiny adjustment. Coil a cable. Turn the TV off fully. Move the phone a bit farther away. Straighten the blanket. Tomorrow, add one more detail. No one is asking you to rebuild the whole room, only this. Now that you understand the brain reads everything as a security map, you can stop unintentionally feeding it maps full of red dots. Each item put away, each light softened, each noise lowered, is one red dot gone. As the red dots thin out, sleep no longer has to pass through a checkpoint of tension to reach you. It can come closer, sooner, like an old friend walking into a familiar house without setting off alarms. And perhaps, in the nights to come, as you lie down in a room that speaks less of things to do and more of a place to rest, you'll quietly see something light yet deep. Calm is not built only by big thoughts, but by how you place a chair, switch off a screen, remove an extra cord. And that is the art of mature living that, at any age, if you're willing to listen to yourself a bit more, you can begin. And when the room has fewer red dots of chaos, the light is softer, the path clearer, your body supported by warm water, medications, breath, touch, safe memories, there is still one very small but decisive thing. just before you close your eyes, in what voice are you telling yourself the story of today? Our brains do not only store events, they store the story we attach to those events. Especially in the last moments before sleep, when there are no more tasks tugging at us, the brain's narrative network comes alive, like an editor sitting down at the end of the day, gathering scattered details, deciding whether today belongs to the category bad day, ordinary day, or day I did what I could. The interesting and slightly frightening thing is, the voice we choose can weigh more than the events themselves. Think of a very ordinary day. You woke a bit slowly because you tossed and turned last night. Your knees hurt a little as you stepped out of bed. You made coffee, maybe spilled a few drops on the table. You got a phone call you didn't like from someone, heard some medical news that worried you. In that same day, you also did a few small things. Called to check on a friend, walked a few steps outside, straightened a drawer, ate a decent meal, laughed once at your grandchild's clumsy joke, felt a small warmth when you got a message. I'm busy, but I'm okay. The day passed with both rough patches and gentle patches. At night, lying down, the brain starts picking material to craft the summary. If we leave it on default mode, the voice that pipes up is often a strict prosecutor. Today, you were clumsy again, spilled coffee, forgot this, weaker than before, heard that news, see, the future will only get worse, did nothing worthwhile. That prosecutor flips through every small mistake, puts it under a magnifying glass, conveniently ignoring everything you did manage, however ordinary. Over time, the brain starts believing that your life is mainly a chain of failures, and when it believes that, every new memory gets filed under I'm not good enough, I'm declining, nothing of value is left. Neurologically, this is not just about positive or negative thinking. The brain reinforces pathways. Every time you chew on the same kind of story, you deepen that track. Ruminating over your faults before sleep strengthens the link between memories in the hippocampus and anxiety in the amygdala. Today it's spilled coffee, tomorrow it's a misspoken word, next day it's a backache. Gradually, every signal leads to the same gloomy conclusion. Sleep that starts on such a foundation rarely runs deep. You don't enter night as someone granted rest, but as someone being marched into an interrogation room. But the brain also has another capacity, kinder and fairer. It can learn to summarize the day in the voice of a good friend, honest, but able to see the whole. This friend doesn't deny problems, but doesn't turn each grain of sand into a mountain either. If tonight you let that friend speak, the story might sound a little different. Today did have some tiring parts, true. The knees still hurt. Some news made you worry. But you also called that friend. You ate better than yesterday. You walked a bit outside. You are still learning how to care for yourself. That is enough for one day. Listen carefully. This voice doesn't sugarcoat or promise miracles. It simply acknowledges both sides. Biologically, when we recount the day with a fair and gentle voice, the brain stores it as a different kind of memory, less tied to panic, more tied to competence and acceptance. This not only helps you sleep better that night, over time, it shifts how you view your life, especially for those 45-90. This is the phase where you can rewrite your summary without being fooled by harsh inner critics. You may have spent a lifetime being a prosecutor toward yourself. At work, in the family, you were the one who spotted errors, reminded others, carried responsibility, rarely allowed yourself to be weak. That habit follows you into the bedroom, turning every night into a small trial. Today, you snapped at your child. Today, you didn't exercise enough. Today, you forgot to call someone. Today, you ate too much. These indictments may feel honest, but ask yourself, if it was someone you love, would you talk to them like that every night? If the answer is no, why is it acceptable toward yourself? The brain doesn't distinguish whether you scold yourself for your own good or to hurt yourself. It only hears the tone. The colder and harsher, the more the amygdala concludes. There is threat inside, and when the threat lives in your own inner voice, sleep struggles to be a refuge. One gift of later adulthood is this: you no longer have to prove yourself the way you did when young. You can allow yourself to switch roles from prosecutor to narrator friend, not a blind defender, but someone experienced enough to see wide. Yes, I messed that up, but that doesn't make the whole day wrong. Yes, I'm weaker than before, but look how many years I've walked and I'm still here, still learning to adjust. This voice doesn't erase illness or loss, but it doesn't pile on needless weight. Try a tiny ritual before sleep, alongside the breath, light, and bedroom order. Once you're lying still with eyes closed, summarize your day in exactly 3 sentences. First, what today made me upset, sad, or tired? Second, what did I manage today? Even something very small, that if unfair deserves to be noted. Third, if I were a good friend to myself, what would I say to close this day? Don't turn it into a speech, just 3 short whispers. For example, on a hard day, you might say, "Today, I heard bad health news. I was scared, but I also called my doctor, wrote down my questions. I didn't run away. I ate and took my meds on time." If I were my friend, it'd say, "You did well in a difficult day. Now sleep." That is a safe narrative. It doesn't deny fear, but it doesn't ignore courage. Here, self-development is no longer about racing higher or achieving more, but about relearning how to talk to yourself. For someone who's lived more than half a life, to hold trial against themselves every night is a brutal unfairness to their own history. In contrast, spending a few dozen seconds each evening practicing a kind narrative is serious work. You're repairing anxiety pathways that have been reinforced for years. The brain can learn until the end of life. Every choice of inner voice is a new lesson. You may worry, if I'm less strict, he'll become careless. Look again. At this age, what you lack is rarely more whips. It's more support to keep walking the hard stretches. A person told nightly, "You're awful, you're failing," is not stronger than someone told, "Today was hard and you tried. Well, handle the rest tomorrow." What gets us up the next day is not shame, but the sense we still have worth and chances. Before closing your eyes tonight, ask yourself very softly, "Tonight, which role am I taking with my self-prosecutor or friend narrator?" If you realize you're in prosecutor mode, don't convict yourself again. Just add 1 new sentence at the end of the indictment. "Even so, I made it through today with what I had." That alone is enough reason to grant myself a decent sleep. That added line may sound small, but to the brain, it is a comma that shifts direction. Gradually, over many nights, you'll feel a subtle change. Good details are no longer swallowed by a single dark conclusion. Stumbles no longer serve as proof of a lifetime of failure. You start to see your life as a story with shadows, but also light, with mistakes, but also repairs, with weakness, but also many acts of endurance. Seeing it this way is not self-praise, but fairness to reality. Then sleep becomes not just technical downtime for the brain, but a place you enter after hearing an inner voice, gentle enough to trust. A voice that does not close its eyes to reality, but also does not shove you out of safety with cruel words. The calm we seek turns out to begin from something that seems small, the way we tell ourselves the day. And perhaps on a night very soon, as you lie down in a room that is tidy enough with soft light, deep breaths, a warm body, you will whisper to yourself a simple summary. Today was not perfect, but I lived it. I loved a little. I kept a bit of kindness. The rest can wait for tomorrow. Now it's time to sleep. That is the moment the brain understands the shift is over. And you, after all those years being prosecutor for the whole world, finally agree to be the friend narrator for yourself. And once you've learned to retell your day in a fairer, gentler voice, an interesting door opens. If the brain at 60, 70, 80 truly has a secret preference for serenity, are we using this gift, or are we unwittingly snuffing it out every night with noisy news and fears that no longer belong to us? There is something that the science of psychological aging has been whispering to us for many years, but rarely told in a warm voice to those who most need to hear it. The brain of an older adult is not just a weaker version of a young brain. It is a different version with a different strategy. If our 20 seconds and 30 seconds are the stage when the brain opens wide to absorb, to fight, to trial and error, to react strongly to praise and criticism, then, from about 60 onward, many studies record a stable tendency. When not weighed down by severe depression or neurological disease, tend to see things more even-handedly, are less dragged around by extreme emotions, more able to find meaning in small things, and this is crucial, better at letting go of what is not worth losing sleep over. In other words, there is a natural positivity effect. The aging brain tends to prioritize neutral or positive memories, images, and information, and to be less attached to negative stimuli. If we don't keep forcing it to drink the oil of fear, it no longer has the energy to be enraged by every trivial matter as before. And that is not a loss, but a wise conservation. Emotional energy saved for what truly matters. Try looking at yourself, or at the older people you love. Don't you sometimes see them respond gently to things younger people would blow up about? They hear the news and simply nod. Well, that's life. Faced with a small change, they don't panic like they once did. Or when recalling an old mistake, they can say, "Back then I didn't know. Now I understand better." That's not just softened temperament, but a quiet restructuring in the brain. Emotion processing regions link up with more mature executive regions. Experience helps the brain curate. This is worth worrying about. That can be released. The problem is, this secret advantage only works if we're not constantly pouring oil on the fire. An older brain is no less sensitive to negative stimuli than a young brain. It just has a tendency to want to pass them by. But if every night before sleep we dump buckets of sensational news, fierce arguments, apocalyptic predictions on ourselves, if every time we pick up the phone we dive into comment sections full of rage, then we are forcing the brain to do the opposite of what it naturally prefers. We drag it back into the 20-year-old mode. Tense, jumpy, anxious, guarded against everything. Picture a 70-year-old who has lived through war, crises, illness, loss, and has also seen terrible days eventually pass. If allowed to live true to that wisdom, each new bad piece of news would be set in a longer frame. I've been through many things. I know panicking doesn't help. I will do what needs to be done. The rest, life will turn. That is active calm, not indifference. But if that person lies in bed every night, endlessly opening videos and articles engineered to tug at their fears, system collapse, dark future, no one is safe, everything is fake, then no matter how good the brain's filtering advantage is, it cannot withstand the fuel poured onto the flames. Your brain, at this age, longs to be allowed to economize, to worry less about what lies beyond your say, to stop being swept up in borrowed anger from a screen, to stop dragging the whole world onto the pillow with you. It wants to turn the skill collected over years, the skill of telling real worry from wasted worry, into a deep, grounded peace. Not out of naivety, but out of understanding. The question is, do you give it that chance? Do you realize that, if you choose, the years from 60 to 80 can be a golden period for practicing a kind of calm that is very hard for the young to reach? You have lived enough to see a conflict and know, in 10 years I won't remember this. You have a history proving that many things you once thought, if that happens I won't survive, came and went, and you're still here. You have the capacity to say to yourself, I was wrong then, but I learned. I have lost, but I still have these things. I don't need to jump into every argument anymore. I choose to be quiet with what I truly believe. And yet, many people in this age range are pulled back towards anxiety by two habits. First, clinging to the past as an endless chain of regret. Second, letting screens decide what they should panic about today. Both numb the filtering advantage. If every night, instead of letting experiential wisdom speak, we let spliced videos, shouting headlines, end-of-the-world predictions flood the mind, then the brain has no room left for its gentle, long-view perspective. It is forced back into everything as a threat mode. Think of it simply like this. At 65, you know your limits and priorities far better than at 25. If the weather is bad, you know to bring a coat. You don't pretend to be invincible. If your health alarms you, you know to see a doctor, to ask questions, not hide. If a relationship drains you, you know to step back instead of carrying it all. That is selective wisdom. So why not apply that same wisdom to the information and worries you allow into your bedroom? You can start very gently. Ask yourself, among all the things that made me tense today, which truly lie within what I can do something about tomorrow? Which are just noise, which belong to the whole world, beyond what one person on this small bed can carry? When you sort like that, you're activating your filtering advantage, letting the brain send energy where it belongs, not squander it. A 7-5-year-old does not need to fret about everything a 3-5-year-old frets about. That's not irresponsible. It's the logic of passing the torch. There are battles that are no longer yours. There are systems outside your reach. There are outcomes you cannot control. You can only ready your heart and live today well. When you accept that, the brain is freed from the illusion of controlling everything, and the secret advantage of later life, the ability to lay down what is not worth it, can unfold. From a self-development perspective, this is when the question becomes deeply personal and important. Do I want my remaining years to be a chain of days yanked around by every fear on sale out there? Or a time when I use my lifetime's capital to choose an inner life that is clearer, calmer, kinder to myself and to those around me? Active calm does not mean turning off all news and living in a bubble. It means I watch enough to understand, then I turn it off. I do what I can vote, care for my health, treat people well nearby, help within my means, and beyond that, I do not let it occupy my bed, I do not drag the whole world into my pillow, my lungs, my heartbeat, again and again. You already have enough evidence that panic doesn't improve outcomes. You also have enough memories to know that some crises pass, and what helped you stay standing was not the number of hours watching news, but the relationships you kept, the habits you practiced, the perspective you chose. The secret advantage of age is precisely this ability to say, I don't need to win every argument anymore. I choose to protect my peace, so I remain clear enough to love what is worthy of love. Tonight, before sleep, as you reach for the remote, as your hand moves to turn on one more harsh bulletin, you can pause for 1 second and ask softly, am I using or wasting my advantage? If you have spent 60, 70, 80 years learning to tell what truly matters, yet each night let your mind be dragged around by flashing words, breaking, urgent, disaster, then perhaps you are dropping a precious gift. The good news is, it's never too late to pick it back up. All it takes tonight is choosing to turn things off a little earlier, choosing to listen to soft music, to read a few gentle lines, or simply to lie still and recall one ordinary but warm moment in your life, choosing to say to yourself, I know some things are uncertain, but I also know I've already come through so much. I allow myself, just for tonight, not to carry the world's load. In choosing that, you are not denying reality. You are respecting your limits and your wisdom. And who knows, after many nights like that, you may find that this secret advantage is not just something in research papers. It shows in the way you greet the new day. Less thrown off by what doesn't matter. Less losing your temper over a loved one's small mistake. Less self-torment over what has passed. And in its place, a little more quiet of someone who understands the value of time, of sleep, of waking to another morning. To close, keep one gentle, deep question for yourself. With all I have seen, borne and survived, what do I want my brain to be in the years ahead? A machine that receives every mass-produced fear, or a wise filter that knows what is worth worrying for, and what must be set down because clutching it helps no one? The answer is not on the news. It lies in the moment you turn off the screen, roll over, pull up the blanket, and choose to let yourself, at least tonight, live true to the quiet peace that age has offered as a reward. After all the layers we've unfolded together, slow breath, safe memories, gentle touch, a tidier room, a fair inner voice, the secret advantage of age, perhaps you're starting to sense something very light. Calm is not a sudden miracle, but the result of many small choices, repeated. And so we arrive at the final question, direct but tender. Right before sleep, if you were to choose just one very small thing to do, which kind of brain, which kind of person for your remaining years do you want to be casting your vote for? The idea of a 2-minute ritual may sound too simple compared to a lifetime of complex thinking. But neuroscience itself stands behind that simplicity. Our brains, whether 25 or 85, share one trait. They learn by repetition. Whatever is repeated, highlighted, placed at the end of the day's sequence has a better chance of sinking in. Researchers call this the recency effect. What happens near the end is more easily remembered and used as a label for the whole experience. In daily life, the minute before sleep is where we unconsciously or deliberately stick a label on the day, and day after day of such labels will flow into our feeling about our whole life. The 2-minute ritual is not more burden. It is choosing a different final moment, a single signal, not 10 steps, not a complex checklist, just telling the brain, before you close the books on today, I want you to bold this. It might be 10 slow breaths. Or 3 gratitudes, or 1 warm memory, or 1 small thing you did right. Choose one. Keep it consistent. Repeat for about 30 nights. The brain will understand. So this is what matters to this person. It'll prioritize it. Imagine a 70-year-old living in a small house in the suburbs of Minnesota or Texas, who, every night before bed, by habit, turns on the news until the last minute, scrolling past lines that read, crisis, conflict, epidemic, market crash, controversy. Then, click, lights out, eyes close. The brain must process a day label full of alarms. Repeat for 30 nights, 300 nights, and the brain will conclude that the world is mostly threat. The background feeling becomes vigilance, suspicion, helplessness. Not because that person is negative, but because the invisible last vote of each day keeps going to fear. Now picture the same person, same house, trying a small experiment. They still watch the news, still know what's happening, but turn it off a bit earlier. Then they spend exactly 2 minutes in bed with a ritual. For example, choosing 10 slow breaths. Each breath is a number, a decision. Inhale through the nose, slowly, feeling the air travel down into the belly. Exhale longer. Count from 1 to 10. If they lose track, they start again. No analysis, no effort to be profound, just a clear signal to the vagus nerve, to the heart, to the brain. We end the day in this rhythm. After 30 nights, they're not just practicing breathing. They're teaching the brain that their priority is not panic, but returning to the body, to safety. Someone else might choose 3 gratitudes, not grand declarations or dramatic blessings, just very concrete, very small. Today my knees hurt, but I still made it to the porch. Today someone answered my message. Today the coffee still smelled good. For 2 minutes, they whisper 3 such things in their mind, slowly, for no one to see. The brain notices. This person, even on days with bad news, still stops at these small, bright points. These are worth keeping. Gradually, your attentional pathways shift. Less scanning for wrong, more noticing what's okay. You don't turn naive, you simply stop wasting the good. Another person might resonate with the 1 warm memory ritual. Before sleep, instead of replaying arguments, they press play on 1 familiar frame. A mother gently closing a bedroom door, a partner handing them a cup of tea years ago, an afternoon driving a child to the field, a grandchild's arms around their neck, laughter around a table. Not to yearn backward, but to remind, my life has not been only loss. There were moments I was precisely where I belonged. That warm memory becomes a second blanket for the nervous system. Repeated, the brain learns that when night falls, it is invited to prioritize the feeling of being held, not abandoned. For others, 1 small thing I did well is the key. The whole day may have been messy or tiring, but they choose to look at 1 kind act of their own. Today, I checked on my neighbor. Today, I didn't raise my voice at my grandchild like last time. Today, I went to that appointment instead of postponing. The act is small, but when recalled right before sleep, it sends 1 basic message. I am still someone who can do the right thing. To the brain, this is antidote to helplessness. After 30 nights, You're voting for an identity of someone who makes small, steady efforts, not someone who only fails. What makes the 2-minute ritual powerful is not complexity, but selectivity. The brain is bombarded daily: images, words, ads, messages, memories, worries. It needs to know what you consider important so it can prioritize. When you try to do too many good for the brain things at once, 10 exercises, 5 tips, 3 books, it all diffuses. But when you are consistent, every night before sleep, I do this one thing. The brain starts to mark it red in the salient system, the system that flags priority. Neurologically, short, repeated rituals create stable loops between regions, handling attention, emotion, and memory. If your ritual pairs with slow breath, parasympathetic pathways are strengthened. If with gratitude, networks for value and contentment light up. If with a warm memory, connections between hippocampus and feelings of safety grow. If with a small act done well, self-evaluation shifts from pure criticism toward recognition. Each night, you walk that path once. After 30 nights, there are footprints. After 300, it's a trail. That trail is your new nighttime personality. Nighttime personality sounds odd, but think about it, and it's real. In the evening, when no one's watching, no roles to perform, when you lie alone with your thoughts, the way you talk to yourself is your truest part. The critic, the panicker, the cold one, or the gentle one they appear then. The 2-minute ritual is not a spell that swaps black for white, but a way to choose who gets the last word. Before you hand things over to sleep, you can keep letting the prosecutor, the news, the comment section hold the mic, or you can decide, for these 2 minutes, I let the kindest part of me speak the closing line. Someone will say, "My life is so heavy. What can 2 minutes change?" The honest answer: 2 minutes cannot erase hard diagnoses, bring back the dead, wipe out debt, or rejuvenate your knees. But 2 minutes can keep those things from defining you entirely. It reminds you that alongside what you never chose, there is still something you are choosing. How you end the day, how you speak to yourself, what you prioritize for your brain. That is the first step of any real change. Acknowledge the context, then reclaim a bit of agency where you still can. For those 45-90, this 2-minute ritual carries another meaning. It is a quiet statement that the remaining years are not just for waiting or enduring. They are still a space for shaping. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, does not stop at 30. It slows, but it persists. Every time you choose slow breath over doom scroll, gratitude over cursing, a warm memory over an old wound, recognition over self-abuse, you are nudging those connections. No one sees it, but your sleep knows. The way you see the world tomorrow knows. Picture 30 consecutive nights. No perfection, just trying to be a bit more intentional than yesterday. Night 1. You remember the ritual, but your mind still races. Night 3. You're more familiar with counting breaths. Night 7. You discover that naming 3 gratitudes softens your edge. Night 12. Warm memories come quicker. You don't have to dig. Night 20. One small thing I did well is no longer so hard to find. Night 30. You notice a distinct rhythm. You lie down, and it's as if your brain waits for the familiar cue, like a child waiting for a bedtime wish. That child is the tender part of you that has always waited for someone, finally, to say gently, "For today, this is enough." When we see the 2-minute ritual as a vote, we understand more deeply. Doing nothing is also a vote. If every night you unconsciously let the screen vote for you, let old habits vote for you, let harsh voices vote for you, then day by day you're choosing a brain that prioritizes anxiety and forgets kindness. But if you realize that you hold that ballot, even for just 2 minutes, you'll see behind that small act lies a declaration. I am not handing my whole life over to inertia. I am choosing how I treat myself. And now, as a friend sitting by your bed, I'm not asking you to memorize hormone names or recall every neural pathway. I'm only gently asking, tonight, before you sleep, would you try this simple experiment? Choose exactly one of 4, 10 slow breaths, or 3 gratitudes, or 1 warm memory, or 1 small thing you did well. Do whichever your heart accepts most easily. Do it imperfectly if needed, not by the book. Just do it with this awareness. This is the vote I cast for the calm, grateful, dignified mind I wish to have. If you forget tonight, try again tomorrow. No scolding. Don't give up because of a few missed nights. True calm doesn't come from loud resolutions, but from quiet, persistent returns. Each day gives you another chance, and maybe one night, somewhere between slow breaths and 3 tiny gratitudes, you'll suddenly see peace was never that far. It began the moment you treated more kindly the brain that has served you all your life. The rest, sleep will take care of for you. You just need to cast the vote. You can close your eyes now and let your thoughts dissolve like mist. If your mind still wants to wander, let it continue its journey to the next video, where we'll go further together into the mysteries of the soul. And if your body is already tired, just let this sound lull you into sleep. No need to try. Just breathe and remember everything you are searching for is already resting quietly within you.